Hello, Paul Wilkinson here. Wow, 30 years since Sting's album 10 Sumner's Tales, 1993. So 10 Sumner's Tales, a pun on his name, Gordon Sumner, but also a pun on a character, Sumner's in Canterbury Tales. So I love that as well initially. So yeah, a pun on his surname, but also a character in the Canterbury Tales. Great artwork by William Blake. I'm a big William Blake fan, so have a look there. Look at some of the artwork that Blake had as visions. Having read that, are absolutely wonderful. So yeah, 10 Sumner's Tales, 1993. Used to drive in my little Mini on my own and with my friends, and we used to put this tape on and listen this in the car. It changed my world really. I'd been listening to Billy Joel, Elton John, and all the pop fodder. I'd got a few jazz albums, but found them a little harder to listen to. But then I started to, once I heard this album, just the musicianship was just astonishing. Pretty quickly it traced me back to Sting's earlier albums, and Branford Marsalis was in the band, a great jazz saxophone player, as was Kenny Kirkland, this amazing piano player who had played with Sting when Sting left the Police. So that Bring On The Night, there's an amazing piano solo from Kenny on that. And Kenny came back after this album actually to do the next album called Mercury Falling, and he plays keys on that, and he's just fabulous. So it kind of traced me back to that. So hearing those musicians then took me down to as I said, Branford Marsalis, then to Wynton Marsalis, and then onto the world of jazz and Miles Davis, then back to swing and bebop and cool jazz and fusion and everything else. So I have to thank Sting for turning on my ears for this. He really opened my ears. This was stuff I hadn't heard before. And the drumming just blew me away. Here's Vinnie Colaiuta talking about it.
I remember in 1990, I got a call from the management, and they said, hey, you know, we heard about you and would like to know if you'd like to come over to England and just have a play. And I said, yeah. So I fly to England, and Sting was there, and Dominic was there at a place called the Townhouse. It's no longer there. It was a studio, and they were mixing Soul Cages. So I went in there, and there was a drum kit, and I just made a couple of quick adjustments, and we just played, the three of us, and we had a great time. We just jammed. You know, I went back to Los Angeles, and they called me and said, you're hired.
So there you go. Never heard drumming like Vinny's. And this stuff, some of the tunes on here in what we call odd meters, I'll talk about that. So not the traditional 4/4 or 3/4 time signature. Along with Sting in the band for 30 odd years is Dominic Miller. Dominic Miller joined on the album before this, which was called Soul Cages, if I'm not mistaken. And here's Dominic talking a little bit about 10 Sumner's Tales.
What is a record that, there's always records that come out, you know, where the production and the songwriting, where you listen back to, you say, boy, we nailed it on that. Is there a song? What's something that you feel that way?
I think 10 Sumner's Tales is probably the one that stands out for me, because from top to bottom, every song, it's like perfect.
So he's been his right-hand man, his sidekick, and he's put some beautiful guitar parts down, particularly on this album. Ooh, super nice, super nice. So yeah, it was a very influential album for me, and I can't believe it's 30 years old. So let's talk a little bit about some of the music. So recorded at Lake House, where Sting lives in Wiltshire, I think. After the sort of Sting's parents had died, so Soul Cages album is probably his most misunderstood album. I love that, some amazing songs on it. But this is a different vibe altogether. And you know, I was suckered in anyway with the idea of this kind of based on his surname and then the Canterbury Tales. So this is a lovely album. So we'll have a look at some of the pieces in it, some of my particular favourites, and let's unpack it harmonically. Let's do a little bit of a dive on some of the tunes. We had David Sanchez on keys, so it wasn't Kenny Kirkland for this album, but David Sanchez was amazing as well. Such a great player, and put some great synth sounds and piano sounds on it. So without further ado, the first song that comes from it would be Fields of Gold. That's probably the one that a lot of people know. A great cover done by Eva Cassidy, which probably perpetuated the song even more. And it just has this lovely melody. When I heard it, I couldn't believe he'd written it. To me, it's just, that's no insult. It just sounded like an old folk song from long ago. You know, like Shenandoah or something. Northumbrian pipe solo, Catherine Tickell in it as well. And I think she plays a bit of violin on the album as well. She does it's a beautiful solo. I've never heard that instrument before, so it's lovely. So that's probably the first song that people know from the album. Next would be If I Ever Lose My Faith in You, which is great because it has this lovely driving bass line, but harmonically we start with in A minor, with an A minor chord, then we go up to A7, but essentially we're rising the top note, we're taking the top note up, then we get like a G sus over A, and then we get this G plus, or G with this augmented, so it's got an augmented fifth, and then we get the, and then into a G. Isn't that lovely? That rising, there, it's just so great, and then into the tune. Then it drops at the G. Probably wouldn't have expected that in A. We'd have probably expected that their sting drops there to the G. Great, so it's got some great words. You could say I lost my faith in the people on TV. You could say I lost my faith in the politicians. They all seem like game show hosts to me. Lyrically, always very exciting. Always an interesting story with Sting, an interesting tale. In between that is Heavy Cloud No Rain, which is just a brilliant song and a groove really initially, but I just love that song. That was fabulous. Another one that's well known from the album, I would say, is It's Probably Me, because Sting did an alternative version of this with Eric Clapton. And again, that's super nice. Clapton as a solo. It's a different vibe to it completely. What I love about this song is the fact that it's got what we call a minor major 7. Well, actually the 9's in there as well on top. It's quite unusual for a song to be playing around with that kind of harmony. In the jazz world, there's Duke Ellington's got a song called Chelsea Bridge, which has got it in it. And My Funny Valentine. There it is. Back again sometimes, some arrangements. John Mayer's got it on a tune of his called Stop This Train. It's there. Then it goes to D over a sharp. Lovely there, that's lovely, isn't it? Sting does it beautifully because he starts probably me with, and he oscillates between some other different kind of quality of minor chords. Then he comes back again. And this beautiful melody. Probably me, another well-known one from the album. Love is Stronger Than Justice. I think it's kind of a pun on the Magnificent Seven. I would think really. I think and wasn't the Seven Samurai another film? And I think it's kind of based on. I think that's the inspiration. This is the story of 7 brothers. We had the same father but different mothers. This is in 7, so I'd never heard much 7 before. I don't think I'd ever heard any 7 really. I'd not been familiar with it anyway. At this point, there's another tune with 7 on in a little bit, and it's just what's lovely is if you go have a listen to this one. So this is called Love Is Stronger Than Justice. It's in 7, but the chorus is in a driving sort of 4 feel. So see if you can spot the difference. You've got this 7 groove, and then it goes into 4/4 in a kind of quite cheesy way, and I think that's exactly what he was after, and he achieved it beautifully. Let's see what's next. So after that, in this book anyway, so you've got these books. So this is the artist transcription book. So that was like note for note, everything that was kind of everything that was played was notated on transcribed. So I used to get my keyboard and try and like sequence it all. Super geeky fun stuff. Trying to make it sound exactly like the record, Nothing About Me, just a great. I think it's just a perfect pop song. There's a couple of versions. There's one with a different backing singer, not the band, but a female singer. It's brilliant. This song's great at the end because it just keeps going up in diminished chords. It's as if it's going to fall out of the universe. I would recommend it. It keeps rising up in loads of diminished chords in semitones. I really recommend having a listen just to the end of that. A highlight track for me is St. Augustine in Hell 7. This great bass line. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd love to ask Sting if you're watching. I'd love to talk to you about this album and deep dive, and I'd love to talk to you more about this, but I'm sure I probably won't. But I'd love to. I'd love to know how he sings these complicated melodies over that bass line, keeping that. I know myself. I just practice things really slowly, so I suspect that's probably how he achieved that, but it's wonderful because he's both the bottom of the band because he plays the bass and he's at the top with the melody. So he's the total boss, really, in that respect. It's lovely because it's got an actor speaking in the middle of this, which is absolutely fabulous. Next, we've got a tune called 7 Days. Now, 7 Days is not in 7, but in 5. So it goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 5, 5. So it stays in 5 all the way through. It's got a beautiful chorus. The harmony in the chorus is wonderful. It kind of, you get to the chorus and you kind of get this F, then this F sharp minor 7 flat 5. So it's rising, then a G, then E7 over G sharp, then A minor 7, then it drops again to that F7. Sorry, not F7, just an F. So beautiful, beautiful tune. Next, Shape of My Heart. Dominic Miller came up with this lovely guitar riff, which is very, I'm not saying all that hasn't been said before, it's very Bach, you know, it's very inspired by Bach. I think he even said it's stole from Bach, you know, that lovely, if you know the prelude in C, I'll just play, I won't play the notes, I'll just play it as a chord. You start to hear, I'm just randomly playing some of the chords from the Bach. You get that lovely sound from, you know all Bach's, his Bach's Goldberg variation. This is the aria. You can hear the bass line is dropping. Yeah, so very, very inspirational, I think, from the world of Bach, and I think Dominic obviously practiced a lot of Bach. I think Sting does as well. Sting did a Lou album, so he's rich and he loves music, you know, he loves all different kinds of music. He's a popper as well, but he loves all this different kind of music. She's Too Good For Me, it's like this driving rock song. And then it goes into this beautiful string section. So I would recommend She's Too Good For Me. And then we've got, last one in this book is Something the Boy Said. Yeah, another great tune. Yeah, I think I've said enough about it harmonically. So yeah, these two books, this was like a piano reduction. And then a few years later, they brought out like an artist transcription. They won't make these anymore. So there you go, 30 years of listening to Sting. Have I got anything else to add? No, Everybody Laughed, which was on, I didn't know this till recently, which was on the Europe release and British release, wasn't on the Canadian and the American release. And so there was alternative lyrics for that called, if I'm not mistaken, January Star, which I've only just heard recently. I never knew that. So and one more thing, Larry Adler plays harmonica, really famous harmonica player. And he plays on Shape of My Heart. And there's a guy called Brendan Power playing harmonica as well. And then there's also Sting plays some harmonica. And I think it might be said that the album has got a theme of harmonica across it. You know, there's a lot of harmonica on it, and it sounds really great. From the next album, Mercury Falling, where it's still got Vinnie and still Dominic Miller, and then Kenny Kirkland returned on keys. That's got more of a Motowny Stax feel. It's got some brass on it. Mercury Falling is again another. I love that album. It's a beautiful album. So 30 years, I still enjoy it to this day. It's a brilliant album. So if you haven't heard it, you're in for a treat. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos. Bye for now.